Hello everybody and welcome back to another final thoughts and timeline for a completed campaign that we did over at the Twitch channel. We are playing as Kongo. And yeah, this is for African Power, right? Kongo has a very famous achievement in EU4 to take over, or as Kongo, you know, take over all of Africa and have direct cores over all the provinces in Africa, which includes all of these little islands over here and these islands here, but not the Canaries, but all the little islands in this area. In fact, this island even here counts. That was news to me. Let's get it going here. One of the interesting things is this is not a particularly challenging campaign. It is considered a hard it is considered one of the hard achievements, but I don't necessarily find that to be the case. It's just kind of time consuming, because you do have to you know, to conquer all this land, you have to kind of play into the game quite a bit. But for the most part, like, we're isolated in this area. We also start with 2 vassals, which is really interesting. So Ndongo starts as our vassal. We can immediately just be feeding him. By 1480, we're going to have all of this land basically conquered. And we're going to have exploration ideas, which lets us colonize this province, which gets us to the Great Lake Nations, where we will quickly conquer the Great Lake Nations, and we will make this nation here our vassal to take a good chunk of this. So that we don't have to play the admin. We are simultaneously working on building feudalism, because we do not start with feudalism. That's one of the problems with Kongo. That's one of the tricky things with Kongo. So we need to build up our feudalism here and Renaissance here. But we are going to take this land very, very fast. The other thing we're going to start working on is this province here. We're going to colonize this province with hopes of getting up to Benin, because we have a dream. We have a dream that colonialism, the idea of colonialism, will start not in Portugal, not in Castile, but in the Congo. That is our dream. We are sending a cog in the year 1499. We are sending an explorer, a cog, and a conquistador across the ocean to discover the New World. Literally in 1499, it was the most insane Hail Mary in the world. In fact, January 1499. Okay, let's check this out. Let's set the stage. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw that really quick, but we actually do not have Benin under our control. January 1500. 1500 January. We do not have Benin yet. We were too slow. We couldn't conquer Benin in time. The idea to conquer Benin, of course, is there's a couple high development provinces here, including a center of trade, which is prime for spawning colonialism. So we only had a couple eligible provinces. This is not even a completed colony here on the Gold Coast. We only had a couple completed eligible provinces, and we got it. I kid you not. The Hail Mary, the 1499 Hail Mary, we got it. Colonialism spawned right here, and that was a game changer. That was a game changer for us. We were able to kind of like take a deep breath, catch up on tech over the next 50 to 60 years. We were able to catch up on tech, and I think by 1600 at least, we were on par with the Europeans for the rest of the game. We were no longer like struggling for monarch points. I think by about 1600, we were set. And a lot of that has to do with spawning colonialism. That was a big deal. The other major colony that we grab, so we grabbed here first to get to the Great Lakes. Then we actually grabbed this province here to get here and cut off these fetishist nations down here. Because the interesting thing is, these guys beat Kilwa. They beat Kilwa. That's not normal. Usually Kilwa wins out. Just being a higher tech group and such, and having the backup of the other Sunni nations up here and such. Usually Kilwa does better than these pagan nations down here, but these nations actually won this time. We take one province here, we do a reconquest war to get the rest of Mutapa. Mutapa is now our vassal, so we have these 2 vassals. This vassal we're just going to be integrating at some point, pretty much. Mutapa is going to eat the rest of this, no big deal. We now have, because we colonized this island, I think temporarily just to get the claim, we now have a foothold on Madagascar. We also colonized here just to get the claim. It is 1560. We have landed in Indonesia. But not to debate anybody, we're not going to do anything with that. We are not going to do anything in Indonesia. By 1520 or 1530, I think we had one colony here. But what we did is we actually went to war with a bunch of native tribes, sieged their lands down, took their lands. That added 4 more provinces to our 1 colony. So that gave us the 5 that we needed for New Congo. So New Congo is we're basically going to neglect them the entire game. We didn't double down in America. We didn't double down, or in the Americas. We didn't double down there, and we didn't double down in Indonesia. We kind of just neglect all that, and we play a very focused game. Very bog standard Kongo here. Nothing fancy, no like super record-breaking stuff where basically here's Mutapa, our vassal, we just need to integrate them eventually. Once they get integrated, okay, this is like a huge turning point for us. You can see that Portugal is actually more powerful than Castile at this point. Portugal is more powerful than Castile. They have all this land here, which includes some gold provinces, I believe. They have all this land up here. And of course they have, you know, Portugal itself. And they have more colonial nations than Castile, much more. In fact, it's weird that Castile is actually up here. England's down here. Like, England and Castile kind of seemed a little flipped. But anyways, this is, when we integrate Mutapa, this is a huge turning point for us. Boom. So at this point, we have now moved our trade capital to Zanzibar. Now we are making big money. We are officially making big money. Our economy before this was very weak. Now our economy is very, very strong. We also diplomatically vassalize Marhan. And the cool thing about that is, no, they're not fetishist. We stay fetishist, by the way. That's one of the cool things about the campaign is we stay fetishist, despite it being a little bit inefficient, but it's more flavorful, right? Like Congo, fetishist taking over all of Africa is just more flavorful. But yes, we take over this nation because they have religious ideas. We force them to fetishist. Eventually they come to like us. It's fine. They're going to convert a bunch of stuff for us in this area here. Mossi's also our vassal that we're going to feed in this area. But they did not take religious ideas, although they are a fetishist nation. They will fail. They will fail to convert the land to fetishist, unfortunately. So we're going to have to do that for them. Our first war against Portugal ending in 1610, 1612. We take a good amount of land from them. A good amount of land from them. I think we ended up sieging pretty much all of this. Second war is going to be firing off very quickly against Portugal. We're also we're like sort of spearheading through Ethiopia as well, who doesn't really have very many good allies. I mean, at this point, we're of course way more powerful than someone like Ethiopia. We're more powerful than Castile. But Portugal and Castile combined is sort of still a threat. I think we're up to date on military, but we're a little behind on the other techs. No, by 1630, I think we're probably up to date on all the techs. It took another bite out of, so that second war against Portugal, we actually do grab Ceuta. We have that critical province. Look at this though, England with Madrid and La Mancha and Gibraltar. Gibraltar makes sense because I think they get a mission for that, right? But how do they have Madrid? Like they don't have a PU or vassalage over Aragon or anything like that. I don't get it. I don't understand how they did that or why they did that. It doesn't make any sense to me, but they actually get cores on these provinces. We can even show that at the end of the game. They still have a core on this province at the very end of the game. So we take Ceuta, which is a huge strategic position, that we're able to land troops up here and easily sort of siege down this area and take control of all of the Portugal's little bits and bobs. Now we actually have even more land. We've sort of split them in half up here in Morocco. We've taken all of their land down here. Funny thing is, Portugal is actually allied to Fulo. And they're going to stay allied to Fulo for the rest of the game, which is why we haven't done anything crazy. Let's shift over. So we're going to continue to beat up Portugal. We fight them 8 or 9 times. We are going to continue to beat them up as much as they can. We still don't have a good CB, though. We still don't have religious ideas. We don't have imperialism. We do not have a good CB, and it's annoying. Beyond annoying. I think it's going to be like, what, 10 to 15 years before we get that imperialism CB? And it's really killing us. That's what's killing us, is not having a good CB with these nations and having to pay Diplo to take extra points. It's really hurting us. And also just having to, accumulate maximum war score to take the land instead of getting it on the cheap. So I think as we come up here, we're going to see that we fight 3 wars against the Ottomans. The first war, we ended up full sieging down Tuscany, who was their ally, and leveraging that war score from Tuscany to get the land that we wanted in the Ottomans. We end up sort of blitzing this area here and just holding the line here. It ends up being a big staring contest. We end up holding the line here. Of course, the war goal would have been to take probably like a single province over here or something like that. I think it was to take Benghazi or something like that. Yeah, I think it was to take Benghazi was the actual war goal. We sieged down Tuscany. That's the only reason why we're allowed to take this much land, is because we actually beat up Tuscany, because we couldn't beat up the Ottomans that much. The second war against the Ottomans was incredibly bloody. At this point, Portugal is getting just hammered. Again, we're fighting Portugal, boom, boom, as much as we can. Everybody's getting hammered from all sides. This is our vassal here, of course. We're letting them convert the land, but once they've converted the land to fetishists, we're going to integrate them. The second war against the Ottomans was so bloody. We had big forts here, and as soon as we walked out of our forts, as soon as we tried to advance, they just toppled over. Like, they were just murdering us. But if we backed up behind the forts, we could do counterattacks into them, but then they would reinforce with 100,000 stacks, and they would just do that dogpiling thing, you know, where they just keep sending in more and more guys, and we just could not overwhelm. They were overwhelming us. They literally overwhelmed us in the Second War. We were lucky to get the little scraps that we got. It was a reconquest war for the Mamluks, so it was we were able to get more than we would have gotten otherwise with like an imperialism CB, which would have been a nightmare. That Second War, because we honestly, by the time we ended the war, we were starting to lose it. We were starting to lose the war by the time we ended it. The third war against the Ottomans, not too many years later, the third war against the Ottomans, we destroyed them. We completely destroyed them. I don't know what happened. We didn't really have more troops. Our troops were just better. They were just better in every way. We were stack wipe. We were taking our 70,000 stacks and stack wiping their troops. We had twice as much morale as them. We had 9 morale. They had 4.5 morale. We had twice as much morale. We had 120% discipline, 35% additional combat infantry ability. We were literally just stack wiping them. In addition to the fact that we also made sure that for the third war we had improved artillery range. It was nutty. It was completely nutty. We were stack wiping 50 to 60,000 Ottoman troops, just like nothing. So we just kind of sped through the timeline there. We did have to. It might have not. I don't think we highlighted it, but this actually was owned by Great Britain, so we had to fight Great Britain for that. We also took Gibraltar, which we saw that they had earlier, and then France actually owned this province here. I don't know why they have a claim on it, but anyways. So France had 3 islands. We had to take those from them, but it wasn't really that exciting. We just held the line here. We just we sort of held these provinces here. We just cheesed the AI. We just baited them to walk down into here, and we fought them. We snuck in, caught them in the Strait crossing, and just beat them in Ceuta over and over and over again. I think at one point we actually stacked wiped 100,000 French troops just using ships and just being cheesy, right? Just kind of exploiting the AI. We did stay fetishist. However, we were not able to convert everything because fetishist only gets 1 missionary, which is silly. You can only get 1 missionary. You cannot do Defender of the Faith because pagan nations are not eligible for this, which is dumb. We got religious ideas very late because I desperately wanted a 2nd missionary so we can convert everything to fetishist, but it was too late. It was too late. I think I figured it would take us about 15 to 20 years to convert everything, all of these provinces, to fetishists, so we just not even bothering. Not even bothering. I don't feel like playing the game for another 20 years on speed 5 just to make all of this fetishist. It's a very nice Congo, though. We filled in all the uncolonized areas just for aesthetics. So it's a very, very nice, clean Congo. These are the ideas that we went. So we did go... of course, the idea group is there, not anywhere over here. We did end up going innovative ideas, quality ideas, defensive, influence, religious, and then quantity. Quantity was just at the end, just to get manpower, because we were really struggling. That second war with the Ottomans, we had no manpower. We had 0 manpower at the end of that. So we wanted to get this just so it would come back fast, so we could get more manpower so we could compete with the Ottomans. If we look at the world power ranks, now we're way ahead of the Ottomans, way ahead. But they, at one point, they were at 3,000 development, and we were at like 2,000 development. Like when we first warred them, they were significantly more powerful than us, but a combination of us taking their land, them sort of conceding in other areas, and us taking more bits over here and more bits in Portugal and things like that, and cleaning up Africa, we were able to boost our development massively at the last 30 years, we boosted our development by 1,500 probably, like massively. Yeah, so that's our Congo. It was bog standard Congo. We neglected all of this. We didn't do anything, you know, exciting over in Indochina. We didn't do anything exciting in the New World. We didn't even really do much in Europe either, except for we did sort of like beat up Portugal just because why not? We could easily take over all of Iberia. We could beat up France. We could beat up Great Britain. We could beat up all these nations. We could keep beating up the Ottomans if we wanted. I mean, we could keep going, but what's the point? We have completed our goals, and the Congo looks very, very nice. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.